Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I wanted to have a quick chat today about feather sticks for fire lighting. Now most of you guys will probably be familiar with these already, but I thought I'd do a quick video regardless. Now I make feather sticks in two ways. I can either use just a small stick, generally a piece of dead standing because it should be drier, easier to work with and take a flame better. Just something small like this. I actually cut this a couple of weeks ago and it's had a little bit of time to dry out, so there's not too much moisture left in there. The other side of things is you can use a much larger log, again preferably dead standing. Now I've split this down from around, you can see sort of roughly the diameter that this was, and what you'll find is if you're out and about and you want to start a fire and you want to use something a little bit bigger like this, the outer side, the bark side, especially if you're finding it sort of fairly fresh out in the woods, the outer side is likely to be quite damp, and a certain amount, depends on how damp it is, but obviously from behind the bark you'll have dampness in here. So what you want to do is get to the centre of this wood, which should be a little bit drier, provided it's not sort of particularly fresh. And what you'll do, you can split it into half, like if you imagine this is a half and the rest of the wood's still here, split it into quarters again, and then you can start taking away the wood that's in the centre here. But what I'll do, let me move you a little bit closer in. We'll start off with just a normal stick and we'll go from there. Right then guys, so here is my stick. As I say, it's probably about just over 1 inch in diameter, and the first thing you want to do, take your knife and just remove the outer bark. The bark's not a great deal of use to you unless it's birch, and what you want to do is get at the wood beneath, which should be nice and dry. Especially if you put this from dead standing, or you're taking it out of a tree where it's fallen and got caught up. And what it will do is give you a nice dry tinder source. There we go. So you've got rid of most of your bark. And what I like to do, just because it makes it slightly easier later on, is just almost sort of square off a little flat section on here. I'll explain that a bit more in a second. So what I've done, hopefully you can see that on the camera there, you've got a nice little flat area down here. And what that will allow us to do is when we want to start our feather stick, you can start on these corners of the flat section here. It just gives you a little something to start working with. Now when you're making these, what you need to do, don't apply too much pressure. If I just flip this around, you don't want to be doing this. Now hopefully you can see that on the camera there. This is quite a thick piece of wood here, and although it will take from a flame, what we're trying to do here is get this to go up as quickly and as easily as possible. So the thinner the shavings, and certainly the well, yeah, definitely the thinner the shavings, the better that's going to be for you. So you want a nice light bit of pressure. Stop probably about 1/2 to 1/4 inch from the bottom so that it stays attached. Same thing on the other side. And this is where your knife control comes in a little bit. This is where you're not just hacking away at it. It's nice, smooth, controlled strokes. And some of them will break off. I'm sure one will do it for me in a second, but as a general rule you want to keep as many attached as you can, and you just keep working down. Slowly and surely. So there's a couple just dropped off there, not a problem, still plenty of wood left here. And what you'll end up with, and I'll speed this up in a second, is a nice amount of shavings at the end. And what you're looking for is, once you've got enough of these, I mean this is probably nowhere near enough as yet, but if you can get a small flame going with a bit of tinder, you hold this over the top, and because these are nice and dry and hopefully nice and thin, they'll take a flame. You'll get a much bigger flame to get your kindling going. So there you go. Hopefully you can see here we've got a nice little selection of shavings here. You can make these a little bit longer, just a piece of wood I had to hand, but you can make these sort of, the whole length of the wood if you want to. One thing to remember is that the longer the shaving you're making, well, to be honest, it depends on your knife skill, but the longer the shaving, the more chance there is that it's going to come off part way down, or it's going to end up getting too thick towards the bottom. And that basically is down to you and learning a little bit more knife control. Now, as you can see, I'd probably make 2 or 3 of these if I was going to be making a decent fire. And again, hopefully you can get some idea of the thickness of these. Some of these are a little bit too thick, in all honesty, but if I can get a decent flame going, I'll be able to get these going without too much of a problem. And what I'll do before we try and take a flame on these, I'm just going to split down this piece of wood, just so you can get an idea of what I was talking about with the sort of the inner wood. Now this is almost completely dry, so it's not quite the same, but it will just give you a bit of an idea. So I'm just going to use this piece as an example. In fact, I might even split this down once again, actually, just so it's a bit easier to manage. There we go. So, nice small piece of timber. Now if you imagine this has come from the centre of that piece of wood, so this should be the driest part of the wood if you're getting this sort of fresh from outdoors. And again, exactly the same thing. So you want to find a nice little section that's sort of fairly smooth. You've got a nice sharp corner here, which is useful. So what you can do is you can start from quite high up. And you see, sometimes these will come off on your knife. It's not a problem. Keep hold of these because you can feed these into your fire. Yeah, they won't go to waste. And again, the finer you can make these, the better chance of success you have for your fire. And what you'll find with these is as you go on, the smoother you make this wood by making these shavings, the easier it will be to carve. Right, now I think that will do me for here. Just as an example, if I was using this to get a proper fire going, I'll probably make a little bit more than this. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this off down here. There we go. So again, this is another thing you can do. If you've got a large piece of timber like that and you're finding you're getting to the bottom, things are sort of tangling up a little bit and you haven't got enough space to carry on doing full shavings, you can cut it off like this, so you've got a little bit of a sort of handheld fire starter that you can just lay over your flames to get the fire going, and then you can just carry on where you've left off. The other thing I wanted to show you, and this was actually something I saw on another YouTube channel, Dave Canterbury from the Pathfinder School, and it's something I've done before and I haven't done it in a little while, and it's something that almost slipped my memory. But what you can do, rather than taking off shavings like this, if you use the back of your knife, so you've got especially if you've got a nice sharp 90-degree spine, what you can do is actually the same movement, however, rather than cutting downwards and making a shaving, put your knife at 90 degrees and basically just rub it up and down your knife like so. And what you'll get, hopefully you'll be able to see this on the camera, what you're getting is this, which are really, really fine sort of halfway between a shaving and sawdust, which is really good for taking a spark, especially to get your initial flame, so that you can, once this is lit, you can get this over the top and this will then take a flame. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes, and I'll fast forward this on the camera for your benefit, and I'm just going to make a little bit more of this, and then we'll see if we can get this to take a spark, and we'll see if we can get these lit. Okay, so we've got a reasonable amount of this now. If I was outdoors and I was using this as a method, sort of relying on it to light a fire, I'd probably make a little bit more than this just to be safe. General rule with tinder: if you've made enough, or you think you've made enough, make a little bit more. That way you're not going to start getting sort of phased that you can't get your fire started because you've lit this, and then all of a sudden you know, it's gone out before the fire's taken, and then you've got to go through the whole process again. Much better off is you know, spending a little bit more effort with your preparation, and then obviously, you know, your fire will get going, you know, almost guaranteed. So what I'll do, let me transfer this into my little fire lighting practice trough. And this is slightly damp because it's been out in the workshop, so I'm not quite sure whether this is going to work or not. So fingers crossed. I'll have this just handy here, so once this flame is established, all I need to do is reach over and put this over. Once that's going, I can then take this one, hold that over the top, and in theory we should have a good established fire. So we'll see if this will take a spark first and foremost. Trying. Here we go. Okay, so there's our initial flame. Now that that's going, get both of those in there. You need to be careful not to smother it at this point. But again, with about 5 minutes worth of effort, looking at that camera, possibly 10 minutes worth of effort, we've got a fire. At this point, we'll start getting some slightly larger kindling on top of here, and that will establish us a nice, good fire. Right then guys, well, I hope that was useful. That was just my take on feather sticks for fire lighting. My opinion, the benefit of these is that you can go out with just a small sort of EDC pocket knife and a fire starter, and you know, you don't need to take any tinder with you, no cotton wool balls, you know, nothing like that, and you can get a fire going from natural materials, hopefully, as you've seen, fairly simply. But as usual, comments and questions in the box below. Please hit subscribe if you'd like to see me do more, and I hope to see you all next time. Thanks guys.